If you're trying to grow in your real estate business, one of the biggest decisions you're going to have to make is whether to do on market or off market. I have done both sides, direct to seller and direct to agent. And let me tell you, they look very similar on the surface, but they couldn't be more different in terms of time, money, and skills needed to get a deal done. In this video, I'm breaking it all down. Which strategy fits your goals, how to pick the path that's going to match your cash, creativity, and hustle, and how to avoid wasting months on the wrong strategy. And obviously, which one will get you a deal faster. Let's get into it. First, before we get into which one's going to be the best for you, I want to make sure we're on the same page of what on market means versus off market. So, off market simply means the property is not publicly listed for sale. That means you're not going to find it on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, MLS, nowhere. This means that the seller has thought about selling, but is willing to usually entertain a cash offer without the assistance of an agent because they may think that the property needs a lot of repairs. They don't want the additional cost of an agent, or they really want to sell by a specific timeline and they don't think an agent can provide that convenience that they're looking for. Obviously, this is not all, but we're talking broad strokes here, people, broad strokes. So, next is going to be on market. These sellers have given thought into selling and they've taken action steps towards getting this done, i.e., meaning they called a realtor, got them on the phone, got them to come over to the house, signed a listing agreement, got the property listed publicly for sale. This property is going to be public to anyone who has access to Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, MLS access. These people are usually looking to get a higher price because the agent and the seller are incentivized to do so. The more eyeballs you get, the more offers, the higher you can get that price, which means a higher net in the pocket for the seller sometimes, and obviously a higher net for the agent on their commission. With off-market deals, you're primarily looking at cash, okay? A lot of these are going to be your ugly houses that need a lot of work, where the sellers are willing to trade convenience and speed over price. That's going to be a lot of your cash deals. There is room to do creative on off-market deals, but from what I've seen, it's drastically lower. And usually it's just going to be your seller finance opportunities, which are a lot harder, in my opinion, to get done, whether on or off market, because that seller doesn't have a lot of pain. They have a paid off house that they're just sitting on. So if you feel comfortable with doing a lot of cash, off market is definitely going to be the place to go. Next, on market. Now, there's a lot of school of thoughts of you can do cash on market or you can call FSBOs and do cash. Great, completely understand. But from my experience and what I've seen, on market, the only thing that is going to be worthwhile, worth focusing on is not cash at all. It is going to end up being your creative. All right, so on market, a lot of these deals are going to end up being creative. Okay, what do I mean by creative? I mean sub two seller finance, but mainly sub two. And the reason we do sub two deals is for a very particular reason, is because there's a higher level of motivation and pain associated with these leads. These sellers typically have to sell by a specific timeline, or they're in a situation of foreclosure, or it's divorce, or they can't afford making two mortgage payments. Usually there's some sort of underlying deep-rooted pain that gives you the opportunity to negotiate and a reason why they would be willing to do sub two if their listing's not moving traditionally. Okay, next topic I want to get into with you guys is which one of these leads is more motivated, right? We talk about motivation a lot and it being a key factor in getting a lot of deals done and getting a lot of negotiations across the finish line. So in terms of motivation, I say it's even. I really think it's even from my experience. There's a lot of people who have a lot of tough situations on market. That type of seller is going to be more motivated than your tired landlord off market, right? Or you could flip the scenario where you have like a probate situation and the siblings just want to sell as quickly as possible without the headache of paying closing cost commissions or sitting on the market for X amount of days and people asking them for certain repairs. So in terms of motivation, it's really give and take. Next, in terms of price, I'm going off market. Okay. Off market is where you're going to get those steep discounts on those ugly houses. So, because usually those people are willing to trade convenience for money, and that's the trade-off they're willing to take. Also, if there's no agent involved, usually people will naturally give you a discount because they're like, well, yeah, that makes sense. If I have to pay, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, closing costs, concessions, that's like 8%. So I might as well sell it to you for a little bit less. So off market definitely is where you're going to get price. On market, they're incentivized to list higher. That way they're getting their maximum commission. That's obviously their motivating factor, is getting their commission paid. And every time that price gets lower, they get a lower commission. Hey guys, real quick, if you're still juggling texting, cold calling, and follow up by yourself, stop. This is exactly what we built Deal Pilot for closers by closers. We help real estate investors and agents get more deals done using AI, cold outreach, smart automations, and real human support. So if you're tired of chasing leads and want a system that actually will do the heavy lifting for you, check out Deal Pilot, link in the description. Back to the video. Okay, the part you've probably been waiting for. Let's talk about the money, honey, right? So in terms of on market versus off market, hands down, the winner is going to be on market. On market, you could literally start with your personal phone, a pen and paper, and a computer. And obviously you need internet access. Okay, let's not make that too complicated. But very low barrier of entry to get into and to get started. Literally, one of the guys on the team that I work with On Market started out with his phone, a piece of paper, and his computer, looking and scrolling through Zillow. Off market, on the other hand, is going to be more expensive. Now, before somebody comes in and says, well, you could cold call and you could do it on a sheet and you could technically do it for free and do driving for dollars and do all this stuff, 100%. 100%. But after a while, you're going to need to be able to generate leads consistently. I would recommend, obviously, you need a data source to pull your list from. So think, PropStream, PropWire, XLeads, whatever you want to use, whatever's going to pull the list for you. Next, you need skip tracing. I personally use Penny Skips. Then after that, you're going to need a CRM, because with off market, since you're calling potential records to try to see if they're interested, you're going to have a larger volume. And putting that on a sheet of paper, it gets messy. Then after that, you're going to need a dialer, right? Rather than single line dialing, doing a dialer and calling faster, more efficiently is going to be your best friend if you're still doing it, right? If you're not doing all this stuff manually and you're outsourcing it, that costs more money. But then it saves you time from talking to people who might want to sell to people you actually know who want to sell and you have some information about them. That's why for sure I'm going to say off market it's going to cost a lot more in terms of money. On market it's going to be cheap, easy to start up. The next thing I want to talk about that's really important is skill cap. And a lot of people might not like this section, but if you're starting out and you're new and you know the 4 pillars, but you don't quite yet have the skills of negotiation, of really building rapport, of explaining complex topics, of high quality objection handling, I think 100% go direct to seller. I would bet money on it, because on market with direct to agent, it's a lot harder. And I'll explain why. So direct to seller, you're talking directly to the homeowner. This is a person, and most people they don't sell houses every month, every other week. They sell maybe 2 to 3 times in their entire life. So they also don't know what they don't know. They're just thinking, well, the property needs a lot of work and I don't really want to deal with additional cost of an agent. And, I'd rather just have the convenience over the extra cash. So they're usually willing to listen and put up with a little bit more. So if you're newer and you're making mistakes, they're going to be a lot more forgiving or not even know themselves. But when you call those agents, and you don't sound like you know what you're talking about, and you don't sound confident, and you're not able to explain subject to in a way that makes sense to them for them to go to their client and explain, it's going to be extremely difficult. If you want to do on market and that's where your heart is because you want to do more creative deals, make sure you get with a team or someone you know that's actually doing deals. If you have that lower threshold and you feel like you don't have all the skills yet, I would go direct to seller. You're just going to have an easier time of getting something contracted and really gaining your footing and your bearings. So at the end of the day, it's not a matter of on market is better than direct to agent or direct to agent's better than off market. It's just a matter of what do you feel comfortable with, what matches your time, your cash resources, and obviously your connections. Like, who do you know? Right? Those are going to be really important factors, as well as your skill cap of where you are. And just be honest with yourself of where you're at. So, overall, my pick for someone new who's starting out who says, hey, I want to start wholesaling, where should I start? I would say direct to seller. I do not regret my time starting out in direct to seller. And I think a lot of it prepared me for the direct to agent stuff that I do now. So personally, in my own business, I still do both. I still run direct to seller campaigns and I still do on market outreach. So guys, that's all I have for you. Let me know down in the comments, which one are you picking? Guys, thank you so much for watching the video. My name's Alandra Brown, also known as Allie. Guys, be sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.